At night in his small rented room he would sit on the floor with a candle. The light flickered against the thin walls. He read free articles on his old phone. He watched videos about starting small businesses. He practiced English words because he wanted to speak better to customers. Sometimes he fell asleep with the phone in his hand. His pillow was thin but his dreams were wide. He imagined a little shop with warm lights and music, a place where people felt welcome. He imagined his name on a sign and his mother sitting at a table, proud of him. He sent money home each month. It was never enough, but it helped his siblings stay in school. He missed his village, the smell of wet soil after rain, the laughter of his brothers, his mother's cooking. But he told himself, sacrifice now for something later. This thought became his fuel. Slowly, customers began to notice his kindness. Old men called him son. Children smiled when he brought them bread. Some students taught him new words from their books. One even gave him a second-hand English reader. Amir read it at night, repeating sentences aloud. His pronunciation was not perfect, but he kept trying. He wanted to speak well because he believed good words could open doors. Still, life was heavy. Rent increased. Food cost more. His shoes tore at the soles. Some nights he skipped dinner to save money. Some mornings he felt too tired to stand but forced himself up. On those mornings he whispered the same 3 words, "Keep going, Amir." This was the boy who now stood in the café, washing dishes with cold hands but warm eyes. This was the boy who saw a young woman with a blue coat sit near the window and felt a spark of something new. He did not yet know her name. He did not yet know how she would appear again and again, changing the rhythm of his days. But the seed of a story had been planted, a dishwasher with dreams bigger than his cracked shoes, and a stranger with a book who would become a light in his gray routine. The next morning began like many others. The city sky was pale gray. Amir walked fast through the cold wind, his old shoes slipping on wet stones. Inside the café, he tied his apron and started work. But something inside him felt restless. He thought of the young woman in the blue coat. He had seen her 3 times now, always at the same table, always reading. Each time she smiled at him politely. Each time he wanted to speak but could not. One evening after closing, Amir found a small flyer stuck to the café door. It was an announcement for a small business course for beginners. Learn to start your own shop. Free for low-income workers, it said. It would be held on Sunday mornings for 4 weeks. Amir's heart beat faster. This was exactly what he had been hoping for, a chance to learn properly. But his boss never gave him Sundays off. Sunday was the busiest day. That night in his room, Amir stared at the flyer. His fingers trembled. He imagined sitting in a classroom again, learning about money, learning about management. He imagined drawing a plan for his own cafe. He whispered to himself, "This is my chance." Then he sighed. "But my boss will say no." The next day he gathered courage. After the lunch rush, he approached the boss, a heavy man with a tired face. "Sir," Amir said quietly, "there is a free business class on Sundays. I want to learn. May I have Sunday mornings off for 4 weeks? I will work extra hours on other days." The boss raised his eyebrows and laughed without joy. "Business class? You are a dishwasher, not a manager. Who will clean the cafe if you are gone? Customers don't wait. No, Amir. Forget it. Work now." Amir's face grew warm but he nodded. "Yes, sir." He walked back to the sink, his heart heavy. He felt a pain in his chest, as if someone had closed a door on his dream. As he washed the dishes, water splashed on his hands but he hardly felt it. He remembered his father's tired eyes, his mother's bent back, his siblings studying. He had promised himself he would build something better. Now it seemed impossible. That evening the young woman in the blue coat returned. She sat at her usual table by the window. She ordered tea and a slice of bread. Amir brought it to her with a weak smile. She looked at him kindly. "You look tired," she said softly. "Are you okay?" He hesitated. Then he said quietly, "I wanted to join a business class but my boss said no." She tilted her head. "That's sad. But maybe you can still try. Where is the class?" Amir showed her the flyer from his pocket. She read it quickly. "This is near my university," she said. I pass it every Sunday. He gave a small, hopeless laugh. It doesn't matter. I cannot go. She closed her book and looked at him directly. You have a dream, she said. Dreams are hard. But you must not let one no stop you. Think again. Her words stayed in his mind like a bell echoing. That night Amir could not sleep. He lay on his thin mattress staring at the ceiling. Rain tapped on the window. He thought of the classroom, the chalkboard, the chance to learn. He thought of the café, the boss's harsh voice, the endless plates. Finally he sat up and whispered, I will not give up. I will find a way. The next morning he woke before dawn, more determined than ever. He worked quickly, faster than usual, cleaning everything before the customers came. When the boss arrived, Amir approached again. This time his voice was steady. Sir, please listen. I will clean the café before opening on Sundays. I will come back after class and work until night. I will not leave you with extra work. But please let me go for these 4 mornings. It is important to me. The boss looked at him for a long time, chewing his lip. Then he sighed. You are stubborn, Amir. Fine. But if you come late even once, you lose this privilege. Amir bowed his head. Thank you, sir. I promise I will not be late. As he walked back to the sink, something inside him felt light. It was only a small victory, just permission for a class, but to Amir it felt like a door opening a crack. He whispered under his breath, this is the first step. That Sunday he rose before the sun. He cleaned the café until it shone. Then he changed into his best shirt, tucked the flyer in his pocket, and walked quickly through the quiet streets toward the address. The morning air smelled fresh after rain. His heart beat with nervous excitement. He imagined sitting in the class, pen in hand, learning how to build his dream. He did not know yet that the class itself would not be easy. He did not know about the exams, the projects, and the late nights still ahead. He only knew he had taken the first step past his boss's no and toward something new. As he turned the corner, the school building appeared in the distance, tall and white in the sunlight. Amir smiled. For the first time in years, hope felt close enough to touch. Sunday morning became Amir's favorite day, but also his hardest. He woke up at 4 o'clock while the sky was still black. He swept and mopped the café alone, washed the dishes left from the night shift, and left everything ready for opening. Then he changed into his clean shirt, put his small notebook into his pocket and hurried to the bus stop. He could not afford the bus ticket every week, so most Sundays he walked the whole distance. His feet ached, but he smiled because he was going to the class. The classroom was small and bright, with wooden desks and a large blackboard. Other students sat with notebooks and pens. Some were young like Amir, others older, with tired hands but hopeful eyes. The teacher, a thin man with glasses, welcomed everyone and wrote big letters on the board, "Your own business." Amir copied every word carefully. He felt shy because his English was not good, but he listened closely, repeating words quietly to himself. The first lesson was about saving money. Every coin is a seed, the teacher said. If you plant it well, it will grow. Amir wrote the sentence twice. He thought of the coins he sent to his family, the few he kept for himself, the bread he ate for dinner. He began to save even more. He stopped buying tea at work. He skipped lunch sometimes. He patched his shoes instead of buying new ones. Each week he put a small note into a jar under his bed. This is for the dream. But the schedule was heavy. After the Sunday class he returned to the café and worked until night. His hands were rough and red from soap and water. His eyes burned from lack of sleep. Sometimes customers shouted. Sometimes the boss scolded him for small mistakes. He swallowed his pride and kept moving. In the quiet moments he repeated new English words under his breath. Budget, customer, service, quality. He wrote them on pieces of paper and stuck them near the sink. During the week he also practiced speaking. When the young woman in the blue coat came, he tried small sentences. How are you? Do you like the tea? She answered kindly and sometimes helped him with pronunciation. Her name was Sarah. She was a university student. She told him, "You're improving fast." Her encouragement gave him strength. Still, he often felt like falling asleep standing up. But he remembered his mother's tired face and whispered, "Keep going." One evening the boss announced, "Next month we will raise the rent. Everyone must work harder. If you make mistakes, you will lose hours." Amir felt fear. Losing hours meant losing money for his family. He decided to work even more. He cleaned extra tables, carried heavy boxes, learned to make simple sandwiches. He hoped the boss would see his effort. He also hoped to learn skills useful for his own shop one day. At night in his room, the candle burned low. Amir bent over his notebook, drawing small plans, a counter, tables, a list of teas, prices. He wrote "Welcome" in big letters at the top. Sometimes his hand shook from tiredness. Sometimes his eyes closed. But he forced them open. "Only a little more," he whispered. "Only a little more." The business class grew harder too. The teacher gave homework: write a small business plan, calculate costs, think of ways to attract customers. Amir stayed up late doing sums on scraps of paper. He asked Sarah for help with difficult words. She lent him a simple English dictionary. He thanked her with shy eyes. In the dark room, with the noise of the city outside, he studied by candlelight until he could barely hold the pen. Some nights he felt lonely and wanted to give up. "Maybe I will always be a dishwasher," he thought. But then he remembered the first time he had walked into the city with nothing but a suitcase. He had come too far to stop. He closed his eyes and imagined his own shop again. He imagined his siblings sitting at a table, proud of him. He imagined Sarah walking in, smiling. He opened his eyes and kept writing. Winter came. The streets were cold and slippery. His shoes were thin. His fingers were cracked. But inside Amir a small fire kept burning. Each Sunday he went to class. Each day he saved a little more. Each night he learned. The struggle felt endless, but it was shaping him. Like tea leaves in hot water, his dreams were slowly giving color to his life. Spring came slowly to the city. The gray streets began to show small green leaves. Warm light touched the café windows again. Amir still woke before sunrise, still washed dishes until his hands hurt, still went to the Sunday class. But now something inside him was different. He could see a small change in himself. His English was better, his notes were full, and his savings jar under the bed was no longer empty. One Sunday after class the teacher gave an assignment. "Next week," he said, "each student must present a small idea for a real business. It can be simple, but it must be clear." Amir's heart beat fast. This was his chance to show what he had been thinking about for years. That night in his room he opened his notebook and began to draw. He drew a small tea shop with warm lights and wooden tables. He wrote, "A place where people feel welcome. Simple food. Clean and kind service." He practiced saying the words aloud in English, slowly and clearly. All week he prepared while working. When he scrubbed cups, he repeated his sentences. When he served customers, he imagined his own counter. Even Sarah noticed. "You look excited," she said when she came for tea. He nodded shyly. "I have to present my idea on Sunday." Sunday came. Amir cleaned the café early, then walked quickly to the classroom with his notebook in hand. His shoes were still worn, but his steps felt light. The classroom buzzed with voices. Students were nervous. The teacher called names one by one. Amir sat at the back, heart pounding. When his turn came, he walked to the front. He took a deep breath and opened his notebook. His hands shook a little. "Good morning," he said in careful English. "My name is Amir. I work in a café. My dream is to open a small tea shop. It will be clean, friendly, and simple. We will serve many kinds of tea and fresh bread. We will make a place where everyone feels welcome." He showed his drawing. He explained how he would save money, how he would make the shop special. His voice trembled at first but grew stronger as he spoke. The room was quiet. When he finished, there was a pause, then gentle clapping. The teacher smiled. "Very good, Amir. You have a clear picture. You are learning." Amir sat down, his face warm but his heart full. It was only a small presentation, but it felt like a door opening wider. For the first time, strangers had listened to his dream and said, "Good." He walked back to the café that afternoon with a small smile on his lips. The city air smelled of fresh bread from street stalls. The sunlight felt softer. he whispered to himself, this is a beginning. The next week something unexpected happened. A middle-aged customer at the café, a man who often read the newspaper there, called Amir over. I heard you are learning business, he said. I see how you work. You are polite and fast. Keep it up. He handed Amir a small book. This helped me when I was young, he said. Maybe it will help you too. It was a second-hand guide on small shops, written in simple English. Amir held it like a treasure. Thank you, sir, he said softly. That night he read the book under the candlelight. It spoke about small steps, saving money, talking kindly to customers, keeping everything clean. Many things he already did, but now he saw them written clearly. He underlined sentences. He copied quotes into his notebook. His dream began to feel not just like a picture but like a plan. Even Sarah noticed the difference. You look happy, she said one afternoon. Something good happened? Amir smiled. I presented my idea. The teacher liked it. And a customer gave me this book. She looked at the book and smiled back. See? Hard work brings good things. For the first time in a long time, Amir went to sleep with hope instead of worry. He still had to wash dishes. He still had to work long hours. But now he had a small victory. His dream had been spoken aloud, heard, and encouraged. He had a book in his hands, new words in his mind, and a little more money in his jar. He lay on his thin mattress looking at the ceiling. Outside, the city hummed. Inside, his heart beat steady. He whispered to himself, I am not only a dishwasher. I am building something. One day, I will be a dream maker. Summer turned hot in the city. The café was always full, steam rising from cups, sunlight falling through dusty windows. Amir still worked before sunrise and after dark, but his notebook now had plans, numbers, and new words. His savings jar was heavier. His English was smoother. Every night he read the little book the customer had given him. And yet, the real test had not come, until one afternoon, when everything changed. It was a Sunday. Amir had just finished his class. He sat on a park bench under a tree, his notebook open. He was drawing a bigger picture of his dream shop, a place with warm lights, plants in the windows, and shelves of tea. A shadow fell over the page. Amir looked up. It was the same middle-aged man who had given him the book. He was dressed in a clean shirt and held a coffee. Still planning? The man asked with a smile. Yes, Amir said, closing the notebook shyly. Good. Listen, the man said. Next month there is a small market near the station. Sellers can rent a table to offer food or drinks. It is cheap, but you must register now. You could sell your tea there. A good test for your idea. Amir's heart jumped. A table at a market. But then fear came. He had never run his own stand. He still worked long hours at the café. He had only a little money saved. I don't know, he said softly. The man looked at him kindly. Every dream needs a first test. You cannot wait forever. That night Amir lay awake. He could almost see himself standing at a small table, serving his own tea. But he could also see failure, no customers, wasted money, shame. He remembered his old shoes, his thin mattress, his tired hands. He remembered his father's words years ago, you must work for others. That is safer. He closed his eyes. Then he thought of Sarah's smile, the teacher's clapping, the words in the book, start small, stay honest, work hard. Slowly, he sat up in bed and whispered, I will try. The next morning he spoke to the cafe owner. Sir, can I rent a table at the market next month? I want to sell tea on my own for one day. The owner looked surprised, then smiled. You have worked hard here. Yes, you can borrow the big kettle and some cups. But you must be back by evening. Amir bowed his head. Thank you, sir. For the next weeks he prepared every night. He tested recipes after closing time. He wrote down prices. He practiced his greeting in English, good morning, fresh tea. He washed extra cups. He even painted an old wooden board with his own hands, Amir's tea, fresh and warm. His savings jar grew lighter as he bought sugar, spices, and paper cups. But his heart grew stronger. Finally, the day came. It was still dark when Amir woke. He put on his cleanest shirt, old but neatly ironed. He packed the kettle, tea leaves, sugar, and his hand-painted sign. Outside the air was cool and the sky just beginning to turn pink. He walked to the station, his hands shaking. The market was noisy already. Sellers arranged fruits, bread, clothes. The smell of coffee and fried food filled the air. Amir found his table, set up the kettle, and placed the sign carefully. He took a deep breath. "Good morning," he practiced under his breath. At first, no one came. People passed by quickly, their faces busy. Amir smiled anyway. He poured tea into a cup and held it up. "Fresh tea. Warm tea." His voice was small. No one stopped. Minutes felt like hours. His heart sank. Maybe his father was right. Maybe this was a mistake. Then a young woman stopped. She looked at the sign, at the steam rising from the kettle. "Tea?" she asked. Amir nodded quickly. "Yes. Fresh tea." He poured carefully and handed it to her with both hands. She took a sip and smiled. "It's good," she said. "How much?" Amir told her the small price. She gave him coins and said, "Good luck." She walked away. Amir stood still for a second, the coins warm in his palm. His first customer. His first sale. His heart leapt. He whispered, "Thank you." Slowly more people came. A man with a newspaper, a mother with a child, 2 students with backpacks. Some only looked, some smiled, some bought. Amir served each one with a bow and a soft "thank you." The kettle grew lighter. The box of coins grew heavier. His hands still shook, but now from excitement. But the real test came at noon. A large man in a market vest came by, frowning. "Who runs this table?" he asked. Amir's stomach turned. "Me," he said softly. The man looked at the sign, at the kettle. "Show your paper," he said. Amir quickly took out the registration slip he had filled out last week. The man read it, looked at Amir, then gave a small nod. "All right," he said. "Keep the area clean." He walked away. Amir let out a long breath. He had done everything right. He was allowed to stay. He wiped the table, adjusted the cups, and poured more tea with a steady hand. By the end of the day, the kettle was empty. The box of coins was full. Amir packed slowly, his body tired but his heart alive. He had faced the fear, stood at his own table, and served strangers with his own tea. He had been tested, and he had passed. That night, back in his room, he poured the coins onto the bed. They shone in the dim light like small stars. He counted them twice, then laughed softly. It was not much money, but it was more than money. It was proof. He wrote in his notebook, "First day. First customers. First test passed." Then he closed his eyes and whispered, "This is only the beginning." 3 years passed after that first market day. The city changed a little, but Amir changed a lot. His notebook was full of pages now, plans, recipes, new ideas. His savings jar became a bank account. His small table at the market became a red cart on the corner of a busy park. He painted it bright so people could see it from far away. On the cart he wrote with care, "Amir's first cup, tea with heart." Every Sunday he stood at the cart early. He cleaned it until it shone. He set the cups in neat rows, boiled water, added spices, and let the sweet smell travel through the park. People started to come back, not only for tea but for the way Amir greeted them. He remembered names, gave free biscuits to children, and spoke softly to old men who had no one to talk to. Some asked about his story. He only smiled and said, "I like to make people warm." One morning, as the sun rose behind the trees, Amir saw someone standing near the cart. It was Sarah, the teacher who had first smiled at him in the café years ago. She held a book in her hands, still in a blue coat. "You kept going," she said, her eyes bright. "I did," Amir said. He handed her a cup of tea. She sipped it and nodded. "It still tastes the same," she whispered. They talked for a while about life, about work, about dreams. Sarah told him she had started teaching free classes for poor children. Amir listened and felt his heart grow warm. She had kept going too. Business grew slowly but steady. Amir saved every coin, improved his recipes, and painted new signs. After 2 years he bought a van, painted it yellow, and turned it into a food truck. People lined up. A journalist came, wrote about his journey, and posted a photo of Amir holding a cup. The article went viral. Suddenly more people came, some for tea, some for hope. Amir didn't forget where he began. He still woke before sunrise. He still spoke kindly. He still wrote in his notebook. But now he hired helpers. He trained them with patience. Be honest. Be kind. Work hard. Don't rush, he told them, the same words he had once whispered to himself. One evening he was invited to speak at a small school. He stood on a wooden stage wearing his cleanest shirt. Children sat on the floor, looking up at him. Amir felt nervous, then he told them his story in simple words, about the old shoes, the dishwashing, the first table at the market. He did not hide his pain. He showed his notebook. He said, "This is not magic. This is work and faith and learning. You can do it too." When he finished, the children clapped. Some had tears in their eyes. Amir bowed his head and smiled. Later he opened a small training center in his own shop. It had plain walls and second-hand chairs, but it was full of books and warm light. He invited young people who had nothing, no degree, no money, to learn basic skills: how to serve, how to save, how to dream. He gave them tea, biscuits, and hope. He called it First Step School because he believed every big journey begins small. One afternoon, Amir sat alone in his shop. On the wall was a photo of his first red cart. Next to it, a photo of his family smiling in front of his shop. He held a cup of tea and looked out the window. The street was busy. His helpers moved quickly, serving customers. Sarah was at a table reading a book. Sunlight touched her hair. Amir thought of his father's words years ago. Rain fell on the city before sunrise. The streets were empty except for one young man hurrying under a broken umbrella. His jacket was thin and old. Water dripped from the sleeves and made small dark spots on his trousers. His shoes were cracked at the sides. Every step made a soft splash on the wet pavement. In one hand he held a small bag with bread. In the other hand he held the café keys. His name was Amir. The café sat at the corner of a quiet street. Its sign flickered weak light in the rain. Amir unlocked the door with cold fingers. The smell of yesterday's coffee floated out as he pushed the door open. Inside it was dark and cold. He switched on the lights. Yellow bulbs lit the wooden tables and chairs. Dust lay on the counter. Amir set down his bag, rolled up his sleeves, and began his morning work. He filled a bucket with warm water. Steam rose into the cold air. He washed the dishes left from the night shift. The sound of plates and cups clinking echoed in the empty room. His hands moved quickly, used to this routine. He wiped every glass, placed each spoon back in order. Then he swept the floor, mopped the corners, and polished the counter until it shone. The café was not his. It belonged to an older man who rarely smiled. But Amir treated it like his own. Outside, the rain grew heavier. Water ran down the windows. Amir looked at his reflection in the glass. Dark circles under his eyes, hair a little messy, but still a quiet fire inside. He was only 20, but he had worked here for 3 years. Every day started before sunrise. Every night ended after dark. Yet he never complained. He whispered to himself, "One day this will change." He took a breath and opened the door for customers. Cold air rushed in. He straightened his back, put on a smile, and stood behind the counter. Soon the first people arrived. An old man with a newspaper, a woman with a crying baby, a student rushing to school. Amir served them tea and bread, always with gentle words. "Good morning. Here you go. Please enjoy." Many did not look at him. Some dropped coins without speaking. But he bowed his head slightly each time and thanked them. In the middle of the morning, a small drama began. A delivery truck stopped outside. The driver came in angry, shouting about an unpaid bill. Amir's boss was not there. The man slammed the receipt on the counter. Customers stared. Amir's heart beat fast. He felt heat rise to his face, but he stayed calm. He said softly, "Please wait. I will call the manager." He dialed with shaking hands. The boss answered with a harsh voice. Amir explained. After a long pause, the boss said, "Handle it yourself. I'm busy." The line went dead. The driver crossed his arms. "I need payment now," he said. Amir swallowed hard. He had no money. He looked at the driver's tired eyes, at the customers watching, at the baby still crying. Something inside him whispered, "Don't break. Stay polite." He offered the driver hot tea and a chair. The man hesitated but sat down. Amir found the receipt book, checked the dates, and discovered a small mistake. He explained it slowly, showing the numbers. The driver's face softened. He drank the tea and nodded. "Wait," he said. "I'll come back tomorrow." He left without more anger. When the door closed, Amir let out a long breath. His hands trembled, but a small smile touched his lips. He had solved a problem alone. He wiped the counter again, served more tea, and kept moving. Outside the rain slowed. A thin light appeared through the clouds. Amir looked at it for a moment and imagined something bigger. Not just washing dishes. Not just surviving. A place of his own. Warm lights. His name on the sign. People coming for his tea because they loved it. The thought stayed in his mind as he worked. By noon the café smelled of bread and coffee. Amir stood near the window wiping glasses. A young woman walked in. She wore a blue coat and carried a book. Drops of rain shone on her hair. She chose a quiet corner seat by the window. Amir felt his heartbeat quicken. He brought her tea. "Here you go," he said softly. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Thank you." Her voice was calm like soft music. For a moment Amir forgot the rain, the tiredness, the cracked shoes. For a moment the café felt warm and full of light. He went back to the counter but kept glancing at her. She opened her book and read. He noticed her fingers turning the pages slowly, her eyes moving with care. She seemed at peace. Amir wondered who she was, what she read, where she came from. He wanted to ask but did not dare. Instead he polished another glass and told himself, "Focus on work." Yet something had begun to change. He did not know it yet, but this quiet moment would become the first step on a road far from dishwashing, toward a dream he had almost forgotten. Amir grew up in a small village 2 hours from the city. The village had narrow dirt roads, old brick houses, and a river that shone silver in the sun. His father had been a bus driver until a sickness took his strength. His mother washed clothes for neighbors. They were poor but they tried to smile at every meal. Amir was the oldest of 3 children. He often walked to school barefoot. He carried books in a plastic bag and wrote homework on scraps of paper. He loved learning but had to leave school at 16 to earn money. He came to the city with a single suitcase. Inside it were 2 shirts, 1 pair of trousers, a small photo of his family, and a notebook where he wrote his dreams. In the beginning he slept on the floor of a friend's room. The room smelled of damp clothes and old cooking oil. He got a job at the café washing dishes because no one else wanted to do it. The pay was low. The hours were long. But he told himself, "This is a start. Don't give up." Every day he woke up before sunrise. He walked 30 minutes to the café because he could not afford the bus. On winter mornings his breath turned white in the cold air. Sometimes he passed big cars with rich people inside. Sometimes he passed school children with clean uniforms. He looked down at his cracked shoes and whispered, "One day, my life will change." At work he tried to learn more than his job. He watched the cooks prepare food. He watched how money moved at the counter. He listened to customers' voices, what they liked and what they disliked. After hours he cleaned extra tables and asked small questions about business. Some workers laughed at him. "You're just a dishwasher," they said. But Amir did not argue. He wrote down answers in his notebook. He believed knowledge was free if you paid attention. "Work for others, it is safer," and smiled softly. He had worked for himself, but not only for himself. He had built something that helped others too. He closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you, life. For the pain. For the work. For the chance." That evening he visited the same park bench where he had once sat with an empty notebook. He placed a fresh cup of tea on the bench next to him. The air was cool, the sky deep blue. Children laughed nearby. A boy selling balloons passed and Amir gave him the tea. The boy's eyes widened. "For me?" he asked. "Yes," Amir said. "For you. Keep going." The boy smiled and ran off, holding the cup carefully. Amir watched him disappear into the crowd. He felt a quiet joy, deeper than money, deeper than success. He remembered the old days, the cracked shoes, the long walks, the fear of failure, and realized they were not chains but steps. Each pain had been a stone on the path. Sarah came to sit beside him. They watched the sunset together without speaking. She touched his hand lightly. "You made it," she whispered. Amir shook his head. "No," he said softly. "We are making it every day." The wind moved gently through the trees. The city lights began to glow. Amir lifted his cup and took a slow sip. The tea tasted of work, of dreams, of everything he had learned. He looked at the sky and smiled. His journey from dishwasher to dream maker was not just about tea. It was about never giving up, about learning in silence, about turning pain into strength. It was about small hands building a big hope. And that was the message he now lived. No dream is too small. No start is too weak. If you stay honest, keep learning, and keep moving, you can build a life that warms others, just like a cup of tea on a cold morning.